all were Disney Imola, and it turned out to be a great race. I'm Rachel, and this is my Imola Grand Prix race rambling for 2025. Let's just get into it because I am on a time crunch because Indy 500 qualifying is about to start. So weekend rating, I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. This could have been an 8 out of 10 because there was a lot of good overtakes. Overtake for the lead, multiple safety cars that kind of messed with strategy, different strategies going on. But I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because the overtakes were all pretty heavy, just DRS overtakes. There wasn't a ton of real fighting. So that can make it kind of boring. So for that is a 7 out of 10. But overall, much more entertaining than I think a lot of people were expecting this weekend to be. And I enjoyed it. It was also kind of interesting that for a second there we thought the mediums might have been better in qualifying. They weren't, but it was interesting to see. So that was fun. Moving on to qualifying. Oscar Piastri on pole, as expected. The big shock here, both Ferraris out in Q2. To be honest, I missed a lot of qualifying because it went so long with all of the incidents that I had to tune into Indy 500 qualifying right when it started, especially because Pato went second, and Pato's one of my favorite drivers, so I had to switch to that. So this is not going to be as detailed as it usually is for my qualifying reports and ramblings, but Ferrari's out in Q2 was shocking. They really have to figure something out. I say that, but maybe they're better off just kind of abandoning the season and moving on. They could use they don't really need the money. They could benefit from the extra development time that they'd get by finishing lower. As long as they stay P4, I think they might be better off just switching gears into next season. But to do this, in Italy is atrocious. For Kimi Antonelli to go out in Q2 and atrocious. I honestly think the Italians spent all their luck and they cursed themselves when Leclerc won Monza. They won some, you got to lose some. Here the Italians are losing some. There's that Tsunoda big crash there. Lots of ugly crashes this weekend in F1 and in IndyCar. Yesterday morning was ridiculous. Colton Herta, Yuki Tsunoda, Marcus Armstrong. Thankfully everybody is okay. I didn't like to see that. Franco Colapinto had a crash as well. You don't want to see that ever, especially when he got into Q2. It would have been nice to see what happened there. Ollie Behrman had a bit of a funny thing there with, I actually don't know what happened with that. So essentially what happened was Behrman finished his lap just as a second before the red light for the red flag came onto the circuit. But apparently 5 seconds after, they pushed the button for the red flag. And so for that, he technically did not finish his lap under green flag conditions, so the lap didn't count. But if that's true and there's that big of a gap in between the red flag and when he saw it on track, that's a concern and that needs to be addressed. Funny little bit there with Bortoleto. They were still deciding, that's partly what took so long. They were figuring out who proceeded. If Behrman's lap stood, then Bortoleto would have been knocked out. Bortoleto just went out in line anyway and said, I'm going. So that was funny there. Again, the little incident with maybe the mediums are faster was kind of interesting to see with both the Aston Martins. Aston Martins both kind of doing different things. Didn't quite work out in the end for them this weekend, but that was interesting to see. Sainz and Albon up there is very fantastic. Hadjar up there is fantastic. Gasly up there is fantastic. Of course, three of those things is because of the Ferraris and Antonelli not making it through, but nice to have a chance. Colapinto did qualify well considering. But you can't build up a reputation of being crashy. You can be fast, but you can't be crashy because at the point it is literally not worth it. If the balance sheet isn't balancing, you're not going to maintain your seat, and we'll talk about that. Okay, moving on to the race result. Again, quite an interesting race. I have a lot to say, so we're going to kind of go through the race result from winners down, and some will be skipped, but starting with Verstappen, so obviously won the race with that overtake in T1. That was crazy. He just kind of went for it and it stuck somehow, which is, when's the last time that happened? I feel like usually when there's Max Verstappen involved in some sort of overtake, it takes a couple tries for it to stick either way because everybody's fighting each other. So the fact that just went and stuck was kind of crazy. Pitting immediately he really benefited from the Mclarens having atrocious strategy this weekend. I wouldn't say it's atrocious. I mean, it worked out for them to P2 and P3 in the end, but like one of them could have won the race. I really think it was just Verstappen overtaking in turn 1 and the safety car and the bad strategy from McLaren has won him that race. I wouldn't necessarily say well, yeah, that was a good overtake. Moving on anyways. To Lando Norris, he overtook, started 4th, obviously, overtook George on lap 11 up to P3, moved up and down there. Oh, I've messed this up. It's Norris and then Piastri. I have to fix that. Oops. Maybe that uncovered some unconscious bias I have or something. I don't know. But how unfortunate for him that he pit immediately before the safety car. Immediately before the virtual safety car. That was so unfortunate. I mean, in the end, it didn't matter because he finished P2 up from P4. Like, that's good. But like, wow. And then the little incident with Albon. Lots of kind of weird calls this weekend that were kind of, I don't know, interesting. Like with the coming out of that second pit stop under the real safety car, sorry. You couldn't quite tell who was ahead, if it was Albon or if it was Norris. In the end, it didn't really matter because Norris just took it and then Alex Albon pit anyways. But that would have been interesting to see. Maybe it was that Alex Albon did pass it, but he was maybe going a bit too fast. I don't know. Nothing came of it in the end. I think it was investigated and nothing happened. So interesting to see that. Who knows how that could have benefited Lando Norris. We'll talk about the incident, potential incident, whatever you want to call it, with the Mclarens in a second. Moving on to Oscar Piastri, that was just kind of a shame for him. It was that damn pizza that person made on Twitter. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to explain it any further than that, but I think it cursed him. Sorry to that woman, to that person who made that. You cursed him. But yeah, overtake from Verstappen was crazy. Nothing he really could have done to defend that. He probably was better off not really doing much to defend it. And even I think it was David Coulthard said, like, I don't think he knew what was happening. Either of them knew what was happening until it was happening and it stuck. So they kind of messed up his strategy on him, pitting people early wasn't necessarily the issue. That only became an issue once both of those safety cars happened. Pitting Oscar when they did pit Oscar was not good because I think they were trying to undercut Verstappen and it would just did not time it correctly because then he got stuck in traffic. Yeah, that obviously didn't work. In the end, everybody doing multiple pit stops kind of saved him, and the safety cars kind of saved his strategy there, but that he could have been a lot angrier than I think he might be today. And that's kind of the story with McLaren. I think today kind of went okay, could have gone much worse, and we'll talk about that. Also just kind of unfortunate for him that he didn't have any new tires to put on at the end of that stint in the same situation as Charles Leclerc. They just didn't have any tires, so that's what can you do there. Can't go on being like, oh, wish we didn't use that set in practice, like whatever. Okay, moving on to Lewis Hamilton. Great recovery up from what was it? Let's look back. P12 to P4. That's fantastic, and it was, for once, Ferrari had a decent strategy. What? They were kind of interesting because they did split strategies, so everybody in the top 11 started on mediums, and including Charles, and Lewis Hamilton started P12 on the hards, which was interesting to see how that was going to play out. In the end, I don't know if the hards helped him so much as just staying out longer helped him, and Verstappen and Norris stayed out longer on the medium, so it didn't necessarily need to be the hards that did it for him, but in the end it meant he got to have the medium later in the race, which could have been beneficial, probably was a bit beneficial. Anyways, interesting to see the Ferrari messing with strategy and it working out. His strategy might have been more beneficial had we not had, how can it be more beneficial? He went from P12 to P4. But it would have been interesting to see how it had played out if everybody only did 1 or 2 stops instead of everybody doing 2 to 3 stops because of all the safety cars. But it was kind of interesting to see him get so stuck behind Kimi Antonelli. He didn't overtake him till halfway through the race. And then Piastri came up and got through both of them while Hamilton was still stuck, which to me kind of indicates it is a bit of a car issue. I mean, of course it's a car issue, but I think it's interesting to think, like, would Leclerc have gotten stuck behind them so far that long? I don't know. I think it's a bit of both. I don't think Hamilton is fully comfortable in it yet. I don't know. Moving on to Alex Albon. Great race for Alex Albon. He qualified, I'm just double checking, yep, P7 up to P5. So not only did he stay in the top 10, he improved in the top 10. I think it's fair to say at this point that the Williams, like, has a good car. Like, I think we can say that. And I was very upset when Carlos moved to Williams. I am really not that upset now. I'm really not upset now. Let's like do a quick spoiler to the team standings. I mean, it's P4 and P5. There's 50 plus points in between the two teams, but like P4 and P5, you can't get too mad at that, can you? It's probably also, you'd be much more frustrated in the Ferrari in that experience than I think either Alex or Carlos is in the Williams. So that turned out to be a fantastic move for Carlos. But speaking about Alex Albon, great race for him. He was fighting along the Ferraris all race. Incident there with Leclerc where he should have made that corner. Charles kind of pushed him off a little bit, so he didn't. Ended up losing him 2 places from Hamilton and Leclerc, and then Leclerc gave the place back. But at that point, Hamilton was already ahead, so he didn't get the full benefit of it, which is unfortunate because if he hadn't made those couple of that overtake, it seemed he might have been able to get onto the podium. So it's just kind of unfortunate that didn't work out for him, but I would have loved to see a Williams on the podium. One day, maybe. We know it can happen now. Okay, moving on to Leclerc. He was very angry at his luck with the safety car. My points I have written down are really like, man, I feel like each year you feel less and less like he's gonna win a championship, and part of that is Ferrari, and he seems far too connected to Ferrari to actually leave and do anything about it. Even like people would criticize Carlos for kind of talking back to Ferrari, but it would work in his favor a lot of the time. And even Charles doesn't do that too much. He just gets angry at his luck. At what point is it luck? Is it not luck? I don't know. And he was kind of racing a little dirty today. I mean, his incident with Gasly was like, Gasly should have known he wasn't going to make it, but that incident with Alex, I'm not really saying anything, but I am like, my point is, at what point is it not just bad luck? At what point is Charles making a decision to stay at Ferrari? And I get it, like I do get it, but also like, it's kind of a shame if it never works out. Kind of a wasted talent if it never works out. Okay. Hey, the strategy was good though. I have to say the strategy was good. This one was pure luck, bad luck of the safety cars. The strategy was looking really good. They were really hyping it up. They were like, oh my God, he's just made a fantastic undercut. Like he's really got up to net P4 through this. Safety cars kind of dulled that for him because a bunch of people got free hit stops, but I don't know. I do think Ferrari has to just abandon the season and move on. Like, let's move on. Okay, George Russell, no really comment on him. Didn't really see him all race. P7 is like, okay. Sainz, same sort of situation as Alex Albon. I'm very happy for him. Decent for him, could have been better. He had a nice overtake on Tsunoda. Thankfully, that didn't result in any damage, seemingly. There was a bit of contact there. Those two can't race beside each other for some reason. Because even Sainz called that out, like, the incident in Bahrain, like, what? Anyways, moving on. Hadjar, nice for him in P9. Nice to get some points for him. Second highest Red Bull ahead of Tsunoda. So I don't think they'd swap him, but I just think that'll feel nice for Hadjar. Moving on to Yuki, yeah, told to hold up Piastri and he couldn't. But Piastri is also just kind of on one, and the McLaren is kind of on one. So I really think like Verstappen won because he got those free pit stops. And I mean, also that, like, I can't downplay that turn 1 overtake, but safety cars really help him. Okay, we're skipping a bunch of people. Colapinto is like fine in P16, no points. He was told to switch positions with Gasly at one point, so that was nice to see. We'll talk about Alpine. Oh my God, we'll talk about Alpine. The Astons kind of nowhere. They didn't pit that second time, which gave them position, but their tires obviously were dead and it fell off, so no points for them. Antonelli DNF is so unfortunate. I actually don't know what was up with either of those. It seems like maybe the engines are kind of doing something, which is kind of interesting. It's nice to see these incidents where, and it's nice to see these sort of incidents where it's nobody gets hurt. There's no crash. It's just something stops working in the car. It's kind of interesting because it gives us the yellows, which can be fun and interesting. Of course, they were today. And of course, it's nice when it's not like somebody got hurt or could have got hurt. But yeah, such a shame for Antonelli, especially all his family there. I'm sure like really his home race pretty close to where he's from, and Ocon sucks as well, but you know, not home race, so it's like whatever. Next race is his home race, I'm saying in quotations. Not really. I think Monaco, people from Monaco would be upset I said that, but whatever. Okay, moving on to my best driver. My best driver is, surprise, surprise, Alex Albon. 2 weeks in a row. I think he had a great race. I think he could have got a podium. Not his fault he didn't get the podium. And I already kind of hyped him up. I don't have much else to say about this except fantastic. Okay. McLaren. Should they have swapped? Ruth Buscombe says she thinks they should have and she would have swapped them. Specifically because Lando Norris had the best chance of winning against Max. If you need a refresher, basically after that last safety car, Verstappen was still leading. Piastri was P2 and Lando Norris was P3. He had new tires. Oscar was on old tires. Did he have the best chance of getting to Max? Yes. Could he have? Maybe. I don't know. But I wouldn't have swapped them. Even Davide Valsecchi said, you know, it's kind of hard to swap them. You can't just swap them under the safety car. And even after that, everybody's kind of too close to do it safely. And by the time you're able to, Max was kind of far away enough anyways, which is true. I think maybe there would have been enough time for Lando to get up there and try. But he also does kind of take a while to actually overtake. So there's that. I do think it was fair team-wise that they didn't. I think that the strategy kind of flipped around enough today anyways between, you know, who ended up in front of who because of safety cars and pits and everything. So I think it's fair that at that point they didn't want to put their hands in it and have anything close to another Hungary situation where the team made a decision that impacted who won, if that makes any sense. And in the end, there's something they could have done to Oscar Piastri in the end to help him because he just simply didn't have any tires. So it's not like they were making a decision against him. I do think that in this situation, it was maybe less upsetting to just not do anything about it, not to have any team orders about it. Because, well, I say that, but at the same time, it would have been understandable to swap them because, again, Lando did have the better chance of catching up to Max. But I think the less team orders they have, the better. And it makes, well, all of it could go either way. If they could have swapped and it would have been fine. They didn't swap, and I still think it was fine. I don't think anybody's mad that they didn't swap. They also didn't say hold position. You know what I mean? They just put their hands up and cleaned it, which makes when they do put team orders in, that does make it more impactful and intentional, which that itself is a double-edged sword because it messes with the drivers. The real problem is they're both number one drivers, maybe one is the real number one. I don't know. I think, because I don't want to say anything that's like upsetting and I don't want to say anything that's like too much recency bias or something. I mean, Oscar Piastri is the championship leader right now. He's been leading it for a few weeks now. He's won 4 of now 5 or 6, 7 races of the season so far. And for that reason, I think it would be fair to place him, make the decision that he is the number one driver. I think McLaren hasn't done that yet because if they are ever going to, because it's still early on in the season, like things could flip. They're not really that far apart in the driver standings. I mean, let's look. Driver standings, Piastri 146, Norris 133. They're not far apart. It could flip. So it's not at the point yet where they need to be making those decisions to prevent another team from winning the Drivers' Championship. But they may also never pick a number one, because if they do pick it and it is Oscar Piastri, if I'm Lando Norris, I'm kind of pissed. Because what do you mean? I've been with you for years and you've been horrible for years and now you're picking Oscar. So from that perspective, I wonder if they ever will pick. I don't know if they will. But like they're in such a situation. And it also would have been beneficial to both of them if they took the points off Max. But then I don't know, I don't know the math. But like, would that have put Norris in the lead then? Would that decision have put Norris in the lead for the Drivers' Championship? And that's what they were trying not to do. I should do the math on that before I just say that. Okay, so points after Miami, 133 and 115. So 115 plus 25. 115 plus 25 is 140. And then, I actually don't know off the top of my head how many points second place gets. 18. So 131 plus 18. 149. Okay, no. So Oscar Piastri still would have been leading the Drivers' Championship even if, but that's assuming he was in, no, we need to recalculate that based off if he was in third plus 15. No, so he still would have been leading. Smaller margin though, so I understand they don't want to mess with that. I respect that. Yeah, it could have gone so many different ways. I'm not mad that they didn't do anything. Okay, Alpine. I'm late on this, but I have to address it. Whoa. So, order of events. Jack Doohan is demoted to reserve driver, and Franco Colapinto is upgraded. He is allegedly given 5 races. So one more than Jack got, still not enough. And he said, I'm good. It's going to take some time to speed up. Might not be 5 races that I need to speed up and get comfortable, which is fair. That's 100% why Jack Doohan should not have been dropped so early. I'm not convinced that this is permanent. I really think that they are kind of just seeing what will happen. And if Franco Colapinto proves to be expensive and that he is crashing, I think they will swap back, because Jack Doohan, he had a few incidents, a couple DNFs, but still, I mean, if Franco is crashy, I wouldn't call Jack Doohan crashy. So there's that. That happened. Then a couple days later, a couple days before, Ollie Oakes said, hey, I'm leaving immediately. I'm not going to be the team principal of Alpine anymore. I'm not doing this. He was only here for a year or less. That was crazy. Everybody thought he left because he was so upset about Jack Doohan, and that was showing him disagreeing. Turns out, so then that was announced. Then this driver swap was announced. And then it was announced that he was in Dubai because his brother was arrested with a ton of money for something involving high tech in the Mazepin family. I'm not going to say too much on that, but there's something shady apparently going on. There's no evidence publicly known that Ollie Oakes is involved with that, but his brother is. You can look into that if you want. I don't want to say something wrong. So, oh my gosh. So Flavio is now the acting team principal, which is outrageous because Flavio Briatore should not be allowed in F1 because of what he did in Singapore. Oh my God, he should not be allowed in F1. And he is also Jack Doohan's manager. So how is Jack Doohan dropped? Oh my God, get a new manager, Jack Doohan. They hate you. They hate you. And my conclusion with Alpine is just sell already. Just sell already. It's, oh my God. It's just a mess. And why would, like, Oscar Piastri is laughing. He's laughing. And why would anybody trust Alpine? Why should anybody trust Alpine? Like, this is almost worse than... No, well, at least Red Bull is fast. At least Red Bull is fast. I don't think juniors ever feel comfortable there, super comfortable there, but at least, like, the Red Bull is decent enough that, like, you can compete. Well, can you? If you're not Max Verstappen, I don't know. But, and even there might be a situation there. Maybe Christian Horner's on the way out. I don't know. But why would any rookie trust Alpine? Well, like, why would anybody trust Alpine after the Oscar Piastri situation where there was no contract and they just did that? That's horrendous. But, like, 6 races, dude. 6 races? And then Colapinto only gets 5? And it's Flavio. And sell the team. Because that's what they were talking about. They said the team is great. The management is a mess. And so I think even the team is like, please sell, please sell, please sell. It's making me angry. We need to move on. Driver standings. Not much change here. We have Colapinto added there. So sorry, this kind of looks kind of ugly. I don't know how to make it better. But no points for them yet still. No points for Alonso, Lawson, and Bortoleto. Yikes. A couple more points for, like, the Williams. We've still got... No, we've got just under a race win between Piastri and Verstappen. We have, like, 22 points in between them, which is not, like, assuming, you know, that's like a race win and a DNF, and Verstappen would be leading the championship, assuming, like, Norris also doesn't, but whatever. Interesting to see how that plays out. And then team standings here, McLaren, literally no change to this except for the points amount. McLaren has run away with this. See, that's the thing, almost why they don't need to make any calls, because the only reason they would want to or not want to make calls is because of a driver's championship and keeping the drivers happy, so they want to stay. I don't know what the contracts look like, but I would assume there's some sort of way out. They're not at the point yet, the two McLarens, where they're crashing into each other. Assuming they do not get to that point, McLaren is fine. They are fine. They probably want to win a championship and they want to keep their drivers, and that's why strategy and team calls can get in the way. But, like, they're winning the constructors like 100%, 99%. Mercedes, they're skidding away just by being consistent and having 2 pretty consistent drivers, bar this weekend. Red Bull, whatever. Ferrari, whatever. Williams, best of the rest by far, by over 30 points. And Sauber, I feel so bad for Sauber. I feel bad for the drivers at Sauber in the team, because I don't think the team is bad. It's just not working out. But we'll see what Audi does. All right, that's kind of all I have to say. We did this in nice timing. I have 30 minutes or so before the next round of Indy 500 qualifying, which you should all be watching. But a couple announcements here. I am going to the Indy 500, so I don't know when my Monaco Grand Prix video is going to come out, because I will be watching Indy 500 instead of the F1 race, because I will be there. And then I don't know when I'll be able to talk about it and then edit it and upload it. I think, honestly, on that one, unless something crazy happens, the Indy 500 video will take precedence for once. So that's that. And there will still be a video, but I don't know when it's going to go out, is what I'm saying, because I'm traveling. I'm there on Sunday and I'm traveling back on Monday, and then I'm back at work on Tuesday. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you all for watching. If you are watching this and you'd like to listen to it, it's on all podcasting platforms. If you're listening to this and you'd like to watch it, it is available on YouTube. Please like, comment, rate, subscribe, follow, share, all those things, and I will see you soon. Again, I can't tell you when, but I will see you soon.